going on? It is Celtics Late Night, the first iteration of such for the 2023-2024 season. Alongside me, my co-host for Celtics Late Night, it is Jake Eisenberg. Jake, what's going on, man?
Mate, this is so much better than the first time we did Late Night
Oh, yeah.
last year. Starting off with 3 losses to the Miami Heat in the conference finals. So let us hope that this is the beginning of a new chapter, new good vibes, new streak. Let's go.
That would be nice. Yeah, I mean, just so much to run through here. So obviously 155 to 104. Let me check my calculator. Yes,
Dude,
that's a 51-point win.
I struggled.
ahead.
I struggled with the maths. Like, you know, I start to like fade. I was half watching the Bucks game in the fourth quarter, and I was like, I can't believe we're up by 40. It's so many points. And I was like, oh, that's actually 49 points. Because once the numbers get so big, you're just not used to doing those sorts of calculations with an NBA score. And it's like, oh no, we're literally up by 50.
Yeah, you know, like when you have to break out the calculator to figure out the lead, you're either an idiot or the Celtics are really good, or in my case, both of those things.
I was going to say, it's happy for it to at least be the second one as well this time.
Yeah, they are very, very good. 4-0 with a plus 20.5 point differential. I got a couple of tweets that came out during and after the game. Abby Chin had this one. According to our stats guru, Dick Leip, the Celtics put up 75 points in the first half of consecutive games for the first time since as far as the record books go back, tracking halftime scores in 1950 and 51, before my parents were born. That's insane. So very well could be the first time in franchise history. Shout out Eric Weiss in the chat here. 150, absolutely insane. And then the follow-up tweet, this one from Taylor Snow, 75 points in the first half is crazy. 80 points in the second half with the starters sitting out the entire fourth quarter is, I have no words for that. This team is something else. What do you even say, Jake? What do you even say after a performance like that?
This is what you want. This is you just sit back and you look at box scores, you look at stats, you look at tweets, you watch highlights, you watch a show like ours, and you just let the good vibes and the good times wash over you. I mean, we obviously started hot last season as well. This does feel a little bit different. We're only obviously as well, by the way, four games in. 4 games in. You know, early days, but like, man, everybody is locked in. Everybody, the buy-in. You can say whatever you want in the media at training camp. It's another thing to come in and be locked in on both ends. And how many times did this team underestimate an opponent, come out in a second half flat? There was a point with about, what did I have? It was 3 minutes and 43 seconds left in the second quarter. The Celtics, Buddy Hield hit a 3 and it cut the lead to 19. And I was like, we're on track to have another one of these Wizards games. Let's not do the thing where we take our foot off the gas for like the last 4 minutes and that lead goes from like hovering in the mid-20s, low 20s, down to like a 16, 15, 14-point lead to where you just feel like shit going into halftime. You come out and the Pacers hit 2 threes and all of a sudden it's like an 8-point game. The opposite thing happened. Like, Nesmith did hit a 3. Go ahead.
No, sorry, I thought you were done. Go ahead. Keep going. Keep going. I'm enjoying this.
Nesmith did hit a 3, but then Tatum gets fouled on a 3. KP comes off a flare screen that Tatum sets. He hits a 3. Then the refs get involved a little bit with a few fouls. And then Tatum just like perfectly executes the 2-for-1 on another pull-up 3 to give him 21 going into the half. And then the lead was like back up to 20, whatever it was. And I was like, okay. It was definitely teetering in that stressful, I don't want to be annoyed for the next 15 minutes of half-time zone. And they went the other way. They like settled down and like even with the refs getting in the way, I think 4 calls in a row went against them and they had a big lead.
Yeah, we talked about it on the last podcast, and you know if you're tuning in today or Aussie time tonight, very late night Boston time, this isn't going to be on the podcast feed. This is just a late night hang, talking about in this case celebrating a near historic victory for the Celtics. But yeah, it's amazing how like there's still there's still things for us to glean when the team is playing so well and firing on all cylinders and going into the half up double digits. Like, because we're so hung up on their bad habits from last year, like real fans who have been with this squad for a while are like watching so closely for little tiny characteristics like that to see if they're well and truly changing. And like you said, it was looking a little bit more dire heading into the half tonight. Certainly didn't end up in any way dire. Less so against the Wizards a couple of days ago, but for the team to never, bow their heads and give up at any point is an incredible identity shift. And Scal was saying it all night on the call. The Pacers were defending like the structure of their defense. Sure, there are some issues there. Tatum found himself with some wide open lanes to the basket on numerous occasions, which, if you're going to guard anyone on the Celtics, guard freaking Jason Tatum. But like, despite the poor structure of the defense, the tenacity was there for basically 100% of the game. They're tenacious defenders. They were getting up in our space. There were a lot of ticky-tack fouls called. And yet, like, we didn't drop our guard. We kept going at them. Aussie Phil in the chat.
That's a late night comment if I've ever seen one.
We just kept going at them relentlessly. They were not nearly as bad as the Wizards, I thought, despite missing their best player. And yet, like, we just completely pantsed them. Very satisfying.
Very much a pantsing. As much as Aaron Neesmith wanted, I'm sure, to sup Michelle in the chat. Aussie Phil. Yeah, look, we got a classic crew in the chat here. Just got to shout out the usuals, Dave and Jordan and Jesse and Phil, and Eric. Like, look, these are you got a bunch of the OGs in the chat. Everybody else that's in here, what up? We're going to be doing this all season long. Hopefully, with more 50-point wins. Yeah, 82-0 still on the cards. I've been like tentatively bouncing around the box scores. I'm avoiding a couple in particular, but I did see the Nuggets lost their first game today.
And they only scored 89 points.
89 points against the Wolves. And so I don't know how many undefeated teams there are left, but that's another one that's gone down. I can't think of any more off the top of my head that are still undefeated, because I know the Bucks have lost. I know the Cavs have lost. The Pacers have lost. So, hey, you want to be the last person standing? Why not?
Yeah, I think it's just us and Grant Williams and the Mavs.
Oh, the Mavs, who had a big game today.
Yeah.
Again, he's having a good start to the season for sure.
Yeah. Should we get to some highlights from the Pacers game? I'm gonna bring this up here, and I think if I've set this up right, Jake, it should appear alongside us with a minimum amount of sound, and we can sort of talk over and react as the highlights play. Let's see how we go here. There we go. All right, so straight into it here. Let's just sit back and enjoy the glory of Jason Tatum.
Jason Tatum.
The three-point shot is back.
What are we on for the season?
40.6% for the season.
Okay.
On 8 attempts.
Okay. Which is notably down on attempts by like 1 point something, which something that we spoke about after 2 games was, did Jason Tatum take a leap? After 4 games, this was one of my favorite plays of the game. I know Eric Weiss tweeted it, as did I. Jaylen Brown coming off a handoff. Beautiful. Oh, man. That's
just
beautiful.
some superstar shit.
The mid-post, dude. The mid-post. Like, these highlights that we see, like, in the playoffs, we're seeing them, like, the shot diet just being a little bit more varied. It's exactly what I want to see.
Those MJ fadeaways, and Jaylen Brown was doing them all throughout the first quarter as well. It's got to be one of the sexiest sort of aesthetics in all of basketball. Derek White
what is he on right now, dude?
He is superhuman.
What's going on with Derek White?
Maxed out at everything. He's a top to bottom contributor. He's so good.
He had that pull up 3 from the exact same spot as the Heat game as well. Like in the second half, coming down like the right wing, the left wing, pull up from above the break. Oh, I love that from Jaylen. That's something I feel like we're seeing more too, is that Jaylen's like doing the little things, like rebounding, hustling for loose balls, defending at a high intensity. Oh, man. Come on. Dude, he was ridiculous. So I forget if I had explained this to you off the air or on the air, but like I learned about laddering for betting player props on FanDuel. And so like I bet Jason Tatum over 26.5. That was his line today. Only 26.5. Wow. So like something to watch. I mean, it's probably just going to go up now, but like you bet your 1 unit, whether that's, so my 1 unit is $10, bet my $10 on over Jason Tatum 26.5, and then you do like half a unit on over 30 points, and then you do like a quarter of a unit on over 35 points. And so like if you think that Tatum's going to go off for a big night, you ladder your way up. And so like tonight I hit the 26.5 easily, and he just scraped into the 30, but then like he didn't get the 35, which is a bummer, but like
net positive.
He would have you still win money. And but man, we were like on the way to a Jason Tatum masterpiece, like one of those just 50 bomb effortless nights. But I guess this is a better outcome with the Pacers not being able to hit any shots. We didn't have to actually see the Jason Tatum 50 bomb. He can save that for
very much on track. We will get back to the sort of the second half highlights in a bit. I've just paused them so we don't get our stream taken down. Do you want to go back? I've got the separate clip of that Porzingis handoff to Jaylen Brown here.
All day long.
Look at this.
But yeah, this should be something that is part of the offense. Like,
well, they were spamming it in the first quarter.
Yeah. Jaylen using his athleticism, like thinking about what like Max Strus and Duncan Robinson's able to do in these handoff games, like, and you give that weapon to a guy like Jaylen who has the ability to get downhill and put pressure on the rim like that, while also having the ability to pull up from 3. I mean, it's just, it's silly. And it never made sense to not do it with Robb and Al, but yeah, dude, the fact that they're going to this post game, like first possession of the game, Drew Holiday post up. It's beautiful.
Yeah, and it was easy money. And I haven't got the quote in front of me, but he was like, yeah, we went to me first in the post because, like, who are you going to guard? Like, of course, I'm going to get an advantageous look in the post because their best defenders are elsewhere. I'm paraphrasing, but that's essentially what he said. It's funny with Drew Holiday, like, multiple times throughout all the games so far, I've had these moments where I'm like, oh, yeah, Drew Holiday. Because he kind of lurks in the shadows. He does so much. Scal calls out a lot on the call. You know, if you watch this play again, what's underrated about this play is Drew Holiday making a cut, which opens up like the person to get the catch and get an open 3 or whatever it is. He lurks in the shadows. He does so much to free up everyone else, and it's his veteranship that sort of allows him to do that to a huge degree. But then he'll just like pull up and splash multiple threes a game, and you're like, oh yeah, that's an all-star. That's all-star Drew Holiday, who's just like quietly being added to the team at the latest stage of the offseason there. It's it looked a little all-star game-ish out there.
It was ridiculous, dude. Like there was that one he took on the left wing where it felt like there was just no space. Like KP and someone else were kind of like crowding him because they were in like semi-transition. It didn't feel like the shot was really there. But then he just pulls up, splash. Man, the numbers on Derek and Drew this year, and Porzingis for that matter, but I think for Drew and Holiday and Drew and Holiday and Derek and White, their stats and efficiency could just be like out of this world just because of the space that's being created and the advantages that are being created by Tatum and Porzingis and Jaylen and Porzingis. Like, and they're both so smart with their spacing and their cutting that like they're only taking really good shots. Like there's no reason for them to be taking bad shots. They're only taking high quality shots. So like, again, right? But they combine for 13 from 19 together. It's like,
that's wild.
And last game there was 6 for 10 combined. It's like, man, you know. And
what about the stock exchange? Did we get much in the stock exchange?
Not much today. No. The stock exchange was only 1 block from Drew. Derek did have a block that got not taken off the board, but they had called an offensive foul on a Pacers player, and Derek had just like pinned Mathurin on the backboard. So it's tough when you're only playing 25 minutes. There's only so many times, so much time to trade stocks. It's kind of like a public holiday. It's like a shortened week on the stock exchange. Right. Like the stocks the exchange closed early today.
Drew and Derek are willing screensetters as well. In fact,
man.
like name one person in the top 6 who is not a super willing
I was gonna
screensetter.
yeah.
Even Hauser's setting them.
God, Brad is my hero. Danny who like the weapons. It's like nuclear destruction out there right now. Like
We've
everyone
got to
is
get to Jordan's
just
question as well.
yeah. And let's just do it now. Like everything's going so well. The only question is will they get bored and let go of the rope? There's gonna be some stinkers. For example, the Nuggets lost by 20 to the Wolves today. And the Wolves just blew a 20-point comeback, 20-point lead to the Hawks yesterday or the day before that. So, like, what's always tricky is in the midst of a season identifying, was this a letting go of the rope? Did they, like, not care? Did the other team just play better? Did they just miss shots? Because, like, even, last year where they won 57 games, it was very easy to sit here and be like, yeah, cool. They went on a 3-game losing streak. It doesn't really matter. But like deep down in your soul, you kind of like felt like these weren't the right performances that should be happening.
Like it was the worst thing that ever happened to you in your life.
Yeah, or you're just considering walking into the ocean. Yeah, there's going to be stinkers. Like for like the Nuggets last year, literally looked like shit for the last month of the season.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's difficult in an NBA season that's 82 games long when the Nuggets have like an 8-game lead or whatever it was on the 1 seed and they start sleepwalking. It's like, how do you figure out what's real or not? If we get to that point in the season where they can coast for a month and they still wrap up the best record in the league, I think we can safely say that it's the latter. It's more just they're coasting to the end of the regular season. The problem with that is with this team, I don't know if I trust them to like grab hold of the rope again for the playoffs. Whereas like the Nuggets didn't have years of scar tissue, years of traumatic experiences of letting go of said rope. Whereas the Celtics have been doing it for. I mean, the first thing that came to my mind just now was the bubble, Game 3 against the Raptors, where they should have gone up 3-0 and Anunoby hits that 3 and turns into a 7-game series, which is like, how many times has that happened since then? Even that Heat series in the bubble, like games 1 and 2, they could have easily won both of those and they just like couldn't quite get it done. You just have to hope that Tatum, maturity, 26, and like with Tatum, the day-to-day approach has been different so far. But yeah, Eric Weiss in the chat here, January, February will be a true test of any lessons learned. Yeah, which makes it hard, obviously, to project. But I don't know. What do you think, Ben?
I love the idea of I believe in the 4 versus 2 math of KP, Drew, Al, D White versus the Jays. Just the talent disparity there alone, the fact that they're combined as this Super 6 is amazing. Shout out Eric Weiss though, is coming on the podcast tomorrow, 8 p.m. East, live here on YouTube. So subscribe if you're not already, so you can get a notification for that podcast. And shout out to everyone in the chat as well. Keep the comments coming, keep the questions coming. I've got a nice little crew going here.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I don't even know where to go from here. We've got a couple of post-game presses that we can get to. We might run a quick comment here from Joe Mazzulla and then talk about his comments very quickly.
What goes into that? What's making them kind of have that focus? Now, 2 games in a row where they've had that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just who they are. It's just them. They're aware of it. They've been around a long time. They communicate with each other. And then that's kind of the standard that they set for themselves. And, even in like the 8-minute mark to about 6 or 4 when they came out, like I thought we were like competing, making multiple efforts. And like that is a testament of the toughness that you have to handle the things that go in the NBA. So we got to have the humility to understand that it went well for us. And, we just got to be ready for the times that it doesn't.
Tough to have the humility to not be like, we're pretty fucking good after that. Right. But, you celebrate the mindset, right? You hope that that's what he's echoing in the locker room. Everyone, even if everyone sort of deep down is like, yeah, it's tough to have the humility right now, given how awesome we are.
Here's the thing. Tatum and Jalen in particular have really experienced the highs and lows of the NBA at this point. And Eric Weiss has been on this too, like last year. Like they've had a non-traditional start to the NBA as superstars and as top 3 picks, because top 3 picks typically go to the worst teams in the league. They are usually chilling on Charlotte, or Chet might be like one of those guys, like similar to Tatum and Jalen, where like they could make a run this year, and Chet's first year is like a deep playoff run successful. But typically, you're Jalen Green toiling away in Houston with a disgusting roster for like the entirety of your first contract. Like Devin Booker did not make the playoffs until I want to say 6-7 years into his career, until Chris Paul turned up, because they did such a bad job surrounding him with good players, which is like pretty common and hard to do in a lot of situations. These guys came into a great situation and have been really celebrated and really experienced the highs of the NBA, but while also going through the post-bubble year where they were 500, lots of injuries, people questioning if they should split those guys up. They've blown huge games and blown playoff series where they should have won by not, taking opponents seriously, blowing a 1 seed, all kinds of things. So like they have the NBA life experience at this point to be like, everyone's going to be kissing our butts right now. There's going to be power rankings articles. There's going to be, is this the best team we've seen since X, Y, and Z? And they know that as soon as they go on a 3-game losing streak, it's going to be Perkins on fucking First Take being like, this is what I'm saying. Jaylen Brown and da-da-da-da can't play together. He's got no left hand. He has 7 turnovers. All this shit. It's like these guys know. Brad Stevens, one of his fucking things that he always says, that Tatum has echoed, not too high, not too low. And I guarantee you that they're going to be preaching that in the locker room.
Yeah, that's where the Drew Holiday edition really helps, besides the very, very obvious versions of that on the court as well. But he's the only guy, I believe, on the roster who has won a championship. Correct me if I'm wrong there. And he's our savvy vet, but he's only gone as far as the Jays have taken him. Yeah. Essentially, not to disparage his contributions in getting that far, no. But just the winning experience, the championship mentality. They're all cliches, obviously, but given just the fact that we have not been able to get over the hump, having Drew as part of the crew helps so much as well. So there's so much that has to go right still, right? Like we've talked about health and injury concerns all through the off season. We'd have to have a lot of luck there. All of these pieces still need to continue to fall in place and remain in place as we head towards the postseason. I say that as we're 4 games into the season. And it's such a natural thing, right, of the tragic fan to sit back and just consider for a moment, like, is this too good to be true? Like, what could go wrong? If something does go wrong, what's it most likely to be? Another point I want to just circle back on there, Jake, because you touched on this early in the stream here, was like, how do we know how different this is to this time last year, where we started 21-5 or whatever it was, and we couldn't miss a 3. We looked awesome. You and I went to a pub in Sydney, and I was like, Jake, it was like one of the first things I said to you after meeting you in person for like the first time. I was like, I think the Celtics are going to win the championship this year, man.
I remember you were like, like, if we're being honest, we're going to go to the finals. And I was like, okay, man.
It felt very like a clear, obvious thing to say at the time. And it's hard to dispute that. But here we are again, essentially, really, really hot start to the season. Like, what argument can you make to a concerned Celtics fan that this is different to last year, if you can make one at all?
Well, I think right here is the perfect example. Ty Coffee in the chat here. We have already won 2 games this year that we would have lost last year. Like, everybody's go-to stat for the Celtics last season was like, when they shoot above 40%, they are impossible to beat. When they shoot below, it wasn't even that high either. It was like 35 or whatever it was percent. They're like going to have a really bad record. And the first 2 games of the season, well, the Knicks game they won at like a 30% 3-point percentage. And that's really low, especially compared to like the 46% that the Knicks shot. And then they were shooting poorly throughout the Heat game. They ended up bringing it back in the fourth quarter. But that's what I would say right now, is that the approach is definitely different. Like right now, they are not only relying on threes. Like before we hopped on, Ben, I was like trying to figure out like where the Celtics rank in 3-point attempts, because there feels like they're shooting less threes. But if you go to 3-point attempts on NBA.com, they are third. But upon digging deeper, the reason that number is so high is because against the Washington Wizards, they shot, let me just double check, it was 53 threes, which is obviously skewing the numbers up just enough. And if you dig down in a little bit further again, the fourth quarter, when it was all the bench, when that disastrous fourth quarter happened, they got up 17 threes, and that extrapolates to 68 three-point attempts, which would be like 27 more than the number one, or than we're currently shooting, like at 41. So like, you take that out and you put it to like their normal rate. Right now, they're shooting like 35 to 37 threes per game, which is like perfect, I think, and it just illustrates the kind of like the change in approach. Like, you still want them shooting a lot of threes. The best teams and the best offenses in the NBA generate a lot of threes. Like, and also looking at the lineups, Porzingis, Derek, apparently now is a 40% three-point shooter. Drew's been a 40% three-point shooter for the last 3 years. Horford led the league in three-point shooting. Like, Tatum and Jalen are money on wide open threes. Like, you want them taking a lot of 3-pointers. I'm just not sure you want them to be like as many as like 40 plus or 50 plus that what Joe was asking for last year. There's a clear change in approach to me. There's a clear emphasis on bully ball across the board. From the first possession to Jalen and Jason fucking getting in the post, like possession after possession.
Yeah, that's definitely like the elevator pitch is like, okay, we're still dominating teams, but shooting way less threes. It's all about paint touches. We're playing inside out. Like, if you just look at the way the game is being played, and yet we're replicating the dominance of last year, but the approach to the game is, if you look at the stats, like entirely different or very much different. And then just the simpler argument is just we're so much more talented. We have so much talent on the team. And I guess to shift a little bit, the bench today. Last night, I was working on a YouTube video, which I now will not publish, about the struggles of our bench. Put a lot of time and effort into that and had to go to bed. And I was like, I think the bench are going to suck again tomorrow against the Pacers. It'll be fine. I'll pick it up again tomorrow afternoon. The bench were pretty awesome today. Sam Hauser, I think I got the stats here. Maybe I can bring them up on screen very quickly. I don't know if that's big enough for you guys. Let me know.
I can see it.
Sam Hauser, 5 of 7 from the floor.
Holy
5 of 6
shit.
from 3. 5 of 6 from 3.
Hauser was doing the thing where it was just like turn, fire, moon ball, like getting icicles off the TD Garden roof and just splashing in a way that only Sam Hauser can splash.
Yeah, and then Pritchard as well had himself a nice little game. 6 of 10, 2 of 3 from 3, and then 9 assists. 9 of 6 from Pritchard. Like, if you want to attribute one thing other than, like, yes, they were just making shots, to the bench sort of upholding the dominance late in the game, Pritchard was like slicing and dicing out there. He was having himself a time against his like Spider-Man meme replicant.
I know, dude. TJ McConnell's good. Like, he, I know I would really love Caruso on the team at some point, but like, if we can't get Caruso, TJ McConnell would be great too. This was huge for Pritchard, I think, more than anyone else. I was very adamant that of this bench struggles, the one that I'm not concerned about in the slightest, Sam Hauser. He has a 7-year sample size of being a fucking sniper on the exact same catch and shoot stuff. Like, him going 5 for 6 from 3 was inevitable. And this comment in the chat here by Sway Xavier, Hauser's been great. I don't care what anyone says. He's an awesome team defender and he hustles. I couldn't agree more. He does the little things, man. Like, he got another 3 rebounds today. He had a cool little steal. He's tall. That's really helpful. Especially when you're like surrounded by all these other awesome defenders. It's just like gets in there. He's willing to muck it up. So like but Pritchard, it was huge for Pritchard, I think. Just emotionally, mentally, to get back like some of that swagger that he has, because he, even in the first half, I thought he was better. He looked more decisive, but in that second half, he got back to being like the garbage man. Like, there's no better preseason garbage time player in the NBA. But that leads to him being more confident, I guarantee you, in his regular minutes. This is my favorite move of the night. It's not even close.
So nasty. And then the look into the crowd.
Yeah,
And we don't have to clarify what we're talking about to the podcast listeners because this will not
great.
go on the podcast feed. But if you're here for the first time, subscribe to the First of the Floor podcast or the podcast streaming here live and going out on our audio podcast feed around this time tomorrow, slightly earlier. Huge for Pritchard and just a relief for us, everyone involved in terms of like I said earlier, we're constantly trying to find the creases, like what's wrong with this team, what could go wrong, because we've never gotten over that hump. We almost expect something to be our downfall at some point, and so we're looking in all these places to try and find it. And so for that to kind of just relieve the pressure a little bit in terms of the bench production is huge. 100% field goal percentage. Luke Cornett, 1 of 1 from the floor, amazing. But Delano Danson as well, 4 of 4. Like it's hard to really criticize anyone in this game. Everyone was truly incredible. I'm just trying
to think. Like, was Fee's one? I thought Fee came in and made a 3. I was that in the third quarter. I'm looking at the fourth quarter stats right now.
He did come in and attempt. Was it a double pump reverse
that was
slam
sick,
alley-oop?
dude. I'm so sad that didn't go down, dude. The guy would have gone crazy, dude. I like Fee. I like Fee.
Yeah,
he's got some juice, dude. He's what? He's alone.
For that alone, like for just the audacity to attempt that,
dude.
Like he's playing for minutes.
He's got a little bit of juice. I don't know, like he's definitely got the movement shooting part down. He's got this little Svi with that, like he can get up there. So I think that this bench is actually sneaky good. Here we go. One game later.
I mean, I want you to be right. I think you're right in that they all have like at least one solid NBA skill, right? Like we can attribute that to everyone on the bench, even the deep bench, except maybe Luke Cornett. Sorry, I said it. But like, can they like find the chemistry there? And especially with the starters that they end up playing with, we saw that really for the first time with PP and Hauser tonight, if you're in the States. Can the rest of our bench find a way to gel their one NBA skill with the starters? I think is sort of the long-standing question there. And we've seen it with O'Shea as well. Like he's bringing his offensive rebound and his hustle to the team, and that's really helped out our starters too.
The tricky part, honestly, like we've played 4 games and we've only really had 2 games where the bench has had a chance to play a full game and actually like even give, like if Joe's had plans to like, I might go with like Lamar Stevens in the third quarter with this lineup. Who knows if he was planning on doing anything, because the game has been over at halftime the last 2 games. Like he went to O'Shea in the Heat game, but is he, because I know Phil Hart before was saying that he had Stevens at the 5 with Cornett back on the bench in the fourth quarter, which is something he did in the preseason. Like right now we haven't had to try anything really. And to build that chemistry, like there's always going to be at least 2 of the top 6. Really 3 of the top 6 are going to be on at all times. Like why would you have 4 of the top 6 on the bench at any point? Like if they're healthy, like doesn't really make any sense. And so to like get rhythm and get a feel for which of these bench guys makes sense and what like can Svi's skill set work with Derek, Drew, Tatum, and a Porzingis lineup, I have absolutely no doubt that it would work, because the talent, as you said, is just so high. And like where we are right now, Aussie Field, anyone making 86 Celtics comparisons, that's where we're at right now.
Surely.
Yeah. And so like role players' jobs get so much easier when the talent of the best players are at a point where these starters are, because your job is so simplified, your role is so simple, the space you have to operate is always going to be bigger. Your job just becomes easier.
But fully agree. We can't forget the other purpose of the bench, which is to come in up 30, up 40, whatever it is, and not shit that lead down your leg, which they did in Washington. And that's all of this conversation came out. I was like, like, can they at least be that good to not like lose a huge lead to the opposition's bench? And they didn't prove themselves to be in the last game. They well and truly flipped the narrative on that in this game, which is why we're all happy. Everyone wants to dunk on Cornett. Why not? I mean, he's our third big. We need him to be better than he is. That's kind of, we want to love him. but he hasn't given us anything to love so far.
Something that I did notice that Joe did was he didn't do a full bench substitution. He left like Porzingis and was it Drew or Derek? I forget.
Yeah, I think it was Drew.
I think it was Drew. Yeah, like he did it like a little bit in waves. Like he got like there was still like over a quarter of this unit being on the court together, but he didn't like just throw them all out there at the same time, which again, like another little adjustment by Joe. Like this is, you learn from one blowout to the next that like, hey, maybe to give the bench a bit of rhythm, to give Pritchard a bit of rhythm, I'm going to put him out there with more talented players and Hauser out there with more talented players, get them rolling a little bit before I subject him to playing with Luke Cornett. And that's it. Basically, before I subject him to playing with Luke Cornett, I'm going to give him the chance to play with Porzingis and Drew Holiday first.
Sure. Yep. No, I feel you there. Pivoting slightly, Al Horford.
Yes.
11 minutes? Am I reading that right? 11 minutes
crazy.
in this game? And it didn't feel like we were like, where's Al Horford at any point? Like we kind of just got all the Al we needed. Maybe the biggest beneficiary rather of everyone on the Celtics team by going up so quickly in the game.
So he played 11 minutes, as you said, all of which in the first half. And so it does feel like they have him right where I've wanted to have him in the 22 to 24 minute range, which I think is perfect. And we're just banking Al Horford rest right now. Every game like this is huge. Now, the games that you rest earlier in the season don't equal the amount of rest you're getting late in the season. That's why I'm always someone who's like not super concerned with like Tatum playing a lot of minutes in the first half of the year. Like you can taper down as you get close to the playoffs. The difference was in the year that they went to the finals, they had to like go pedal to the metal for the entire season because they were literally out of the play-in game in January.
Yeah. Yep.
Just crazy to even think about that being a possibility with the Boston Celtics right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just looking at all the tweets, all the stats, team-based, player-based. There's nothing wrong with everything was perfect tonight.
Well, okay, how about this? We don't have to go negative. I did think that the Porzingis defense and the interior defense wasn't awesome. I do think there was an element of the Pacers missing shots in the first half. That like
early in the game?
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed that was the first note that I took was that the Pacers were finding a little pocket of space. They were driving hard and getting Porzingis backpedaling almost under the rim and then taking these really short, like not quite a layup, these really short jumpers. They did that the first couple of possessions, and that seemed like a really easy spot for them to get to. And then I'm not sure what happened to stop that. I think positionally Porzingis changed where he was guarding and how much backpedaling he did. And then I think that the stock exchange just stepped up their screen navigation a little bit to mitigate that. But that was a little bit concerning. And then you were talking about in our Slack, I think, Jake, how is Porzingis going to handle the first stretch 5 that he's seen this season? And I don't know, Miles Turner was not really a factor in this game. So it was kind of a moot point in the end.
Yeah, Miles Turner does that sometimes. Like this should have been like a spot where he tried to step up. Interesting question for you here. I mean, I think it's an easy answer, but it's Jackster in the chat. I'm going to get killed for saying this, but hey, look, this is a safe space. Late night show. You never held accountable for anything you say in here. Do we need Al? Is he tradable? I'm not saying I want him traded, but
I think this question gets answered 6 minutes into the first matchup against the Sixers.
Yeah.
That's when you're like, oh, okay, we need
And the Bucks.
Especially especially if you watch Porzingis in the absence of Al trying to take on those defensive assignments. But, Al adds so much more than that. He's an excellent sixth man. He is a depth of knowledge and his veteran leadership. I think for this team, like we've got to remember, like the Jays are still relatively young despite their lengthy NBA experience. We need some old heads in the locker room, just like keeping these guys locked in. So on and off the court, Al is like integral. He's vital.
Yeah. Yeah.
I could not think of a reason to trade him. And then, like, what or who are you getting back of any equal or greater
Yeah,
value?
for $9
than
million.
Al Horford?
Yeah. Like, if you can, because the only trade then is like a Horford. I don't even think they probably can aggregate. They can aggregate. It's next year they can't with the new CBA. It's like Al and Pritchard are the only like salaries above the minimum, which gets you to like 13 million or 14 million. Like, if you find me the $14 million player, then sure. I'm open to at least like thinking about it because but like I think that his value is immense.
Oh yeah.
From like the leadership, like you cannot be overstated. He like that's everybody knows Al is like one of the most important leaders on this team. But what he still gives you coming off the bench, you like to have that Heat game where Porzingis fouls out, which if you don't have Al, he's the number one defender on Embiid, Giannis, and those are the only other two players in the East that can give you trouble like for a series, really. Then it's just Porzingis and Luke Cornett.
And the big Zing Dog has showed himself to be somewhat foul prone
And
thus
Bam.
far in this short season.
Today again, right?
Yeah, but like that's not to shit on the person who asked this question.
No.
It's like you said, it's a safe space, and there are no dumb questions. We'll answer all of your questions.
I'm about to try and open up Spot Track here and see who for 14 million would even make sense at all.
Well, while you're bringing that up,
Yeah.
I'm just going to run a quick clip of Derek White reacting in his post-game presser to his new Hot Hands nickname.
Derek, the people are calling you Hot Hands now. So you've been shooting well, and maybe some other reasons, but your shot has been consistently there for a while now. How is, I guess, your kind of newfound sharp shooting kind of changed the way you look at your offense and changed the way you look to insert yourself into the game?
Well, first of all, shout out Hot Hands. Good people right there. I don't know. I mean, I just do a lot. I've been putting a lot of work into the gym. I knew that was part of my game that I needed to get better in. So just put a lot of time into it. And when I'm open, let it fly. And getting some good looks right now. So I feel like I should knock them down.
Hot Hands, Derek White.
Hot Hands. That just dovetails perfectly with the mistress, and I couldn't agree more. There he is, the mistress.
Beautiful man.
Beautiful.
A knight in shining armor. Did you get what you needed from Spot Track?
Yeah, I did. I got sidetracked and started looking up Derek White's 3-point percentage while he was talking.
Easy to do. Very forgivable.
Yeah, because like just on Hot Hands quickly. Shout out to Hot Hands. Shout out Hot Hands. You're damn right. Let's go. Like, he's a 35% career 3-point shooter. Like, he was never a bad 3-point shooter. But, like, I mean, it's going to come down, I'm guessing, from 58%. It's probably even gone up after today's game. But, like, outside of his the year that he got traded to Boston where he was a 31% 3-point shooter, he's been above 34% his whole career with a 37% year where he like had pretty good volume and a 35% where he had pretty good volume like as a lead ball handler. So like he's always been very much a competent 3-point shooter. Man, the fact that if this shooting is real, I mean at this point you kind of have to assume that it's real. Like he had a whole season on like 5 attempts a game at 38%. And then in the playoffs he shot 46% on 5.5 attempts as well, right? So like the sample size is getting. Now going back to the Spot Track thing. That was the guy that came to my mind. Sway Xavier in the chat. Thank you for bringing me back. He's the one that comes. Yeah, so he makes 13 million, 13.9. He did just sign an extension, so he's not eligible to be traded until like December 15th or whatever. But that trade's never happening. Because they love him and they're going to trade Cat soon because they have to because of their salary situation. And so like I'm guessing that what they're imagining is Naz Reid is their second big, which is why they signed him to that deal.
Sure.
Yeah.
But also, and let me know if this point doesn't hold any weight, Jake, who do you want to see hoisting the championship trophy
Yeah,
at
no,
the end
no
of this
question.
year. Nas Reed or
Yeah.
Al Horford? It's Al Horford. Papa Sportif, right? Like, he's that guy. Like, that's what...
The beautiful man.
Beautiful eyes, beautiful man, immortalized in Celtic banner glory. We've got to see it. Whereas Nas Reed, it just doesn't have the same
Oh, no.
flavor.
No, like the visions of Al Horford on the ground after winning the Eastern Conference Finals, that almost brought me to tears.
Oh
Like,
yeah, it brought me
like,
to tears. I'm not ashamed to admit it.
There's no one I want to win a ring. It's probably Tatum. Tatum's number one. There's no one I want to win a ring more in this world other than Jason Tatum than Al Horford. Like, he is just the perfect human. And also defensively, I think, like, you don't need, like, Nas Reed's awesome, but do we need more offense? Or what we really need is someone who's, like, one of the most intelligent defenders in the NBA. Like, I know someone brought up earlier in the chat that, like, Al's looking a little slow on his feet. I think that's probably true. I also wonder, like, rhythm-wise, he's not actually getting out there that much. He needs to, like, I'm excited for the first, like, Al game. You remember the Warriors game last year? It was like, we need
Spry
to,
Al.
yeah, we need like when Al like really cranked it up. He went into playoff Al mode when the Warriors came to town. It was like, we need to get this monkey off our back. The overtime game, Horford had like 20 points, like 10 rebounds. Like, that guy's still in there. He's just kind of coasting. We don't really need offense. We need a guy that's going to be able to, like, guard Embiid and literally shut him down, blocked Embiid multiple times in the playoffs, and then able to guard Giannis. You just need that more so. I mean, Wembanyama makes 13.7, so that's
Yeah, let's do that trade.
possible. Like Herb Jones. Like, people talk about wing depth. Like, you bring in one of the best wing defenders in the league. That's pretty interesting sounding. But, like, again, kind of redundant, really, when you think about the playoffs, because there aren't minutes available for him to play. Like, there aren't minutes available in the playoffs. Derek, Drew, Jason, and Jalen are going to play 40 minutes a night. Like,
This comment as well. Like,
Yeah,
haven't we
facts.
lost enough?
Facts.
Like, leave us something. Leave us some scraps in the bowl. Not to equate Al
Facts.
to scraps in the bowl.
No,
but,
dude.
Like, we just leave us something to love. You know, we've lost so many loved ones this offseason already. We can't afford emotionally to lose anymore. Eric Weiss with the suggestion that Al Horford might do the Haslam player coach thing and potentially be a part of the front office. Yes, please, because then he gets rings for all of our future
Forever,
titles
dude.
as well.
Rings forever for Al Horford. So Al Horford is, firstly, the best. He's 37. He'll be turning 38 in the finals this year, obviously. And then he's 30, and then he'll turn 39 in the finals the following year. And then his contract will be done. So that's going to be, man, he is getting up there, man. He's still looking good. Like, these first few games, he's coming in, hustling. I have never been more comfortable with this plan. Like, to have him playing 20 minutes, 22 minutes a night, like, he just needs to be fresh, dude. For the next 2 years, this guy's playing 20 minutes a night. That's all he needs. And just keep it going, dude. He knocked down a couple threes today. I feel like he's been a little bit out of rhythm.
Yeah, and in fact, when I think he turned the ball over. Drew Holiday found him quite early
wasn't
on
ready.
a drive, and Al was cutting. He wasn't ready. Apologized profusely as soon as he could. The next stoppage of play,
Of course.
And then the next play, because he's a fucking gentleman. He's a
gentleman.
beautiful man. And then I think the next play or a couple of plays down, we found him in the corner, and he just stroked the shit out of that shot. Like, he was so like, this will not miss. And it was such even for Al Horford, who's got kind of janky form, it was like, the beautiful game, the beautiful shot. And he just absolutely goosenecked it. And it was such a wet made three. So I think he's obviously cognizant of that also. And suffice to say, what we know about Al is playoff Al is a real tangible thing. And he can coast, and coasting Al, especially in somewhere between 11 today and 22 minutes a game, he can coast at that minute load as well and be who we need him to be, which is playoff Al, when we need him to be that, which is obviously in the playoffs.
You use so many perfect words to describe Al there. Beautiful, gentleman, stroked, I believe was used as well, which was
In a
perfect.
certain order.
Yeah, really, like this guy, he does it all, and I'm so glad that he's in my life. Aussie Field with a vintage fuck the Sixers, just had to get that out there. Like it must be done once per episode, so thank you for adding that as per usual.
Yeah, well, I think soon we can probably wrap up on the Schadenfreude report.
Oh,
if
true.
You've got something for us, Jake. I just wanted to read it. I'm just scrolling through Celtics Reddit, like looking for post-game quotes and things like that. Here's something from ESPN Stats and Info, and I've got a challenge for the chat. So the tweet is, the Celtics defeated the Pacers 155-104, their second most points scored in a game in franchise history. They had 173 points against the Lakers on February 27th in 1959. Boston has scored 508 points this season, tied for its second most through the first 4 games in franchise history. The question to the chat, and mostly because I just genuinely don't know, is what was the first most through the first 4 games in franchise history? My mind wandered to 2008, but I don't know. And a quick Google revealed nothing. So someone out there's got to know. Let us know.
Where's Dick Life? Or whatever is Dick Lipe?
Dick Life. Dick Life. Jason Tatum, 30 points in
Good player.
26 and a half minutes. A very efficient 9 of 15. From the
Yeah,
floor.
I'd say so.
10 free throw attempts. So good. Just to see him
Yeah.
dominate that way. The Jays just taking turns at like Kobe fadeaway shots in the post
Oh, man.
all of the first half. So good. Someone's saying 92. Someone's saying Dick Life. 86. I think 86 is a good call.
Yeah.
We'll find out. We'll try and find out by tomorrow's podcast and tune in and we'll let you know. We'll leave you with some suspense there. Anything else you want to get to, Jake, or should we jump straight into the Schadenfreude report?
I think that's it. We're pretty happy with this, I think.
We've kind of jumped
Yeah.
all over the place, but that's
No
that's
notes.
that's the late night show. We just fire it up and
Yeah.
shoot from the hip.
Yeah, and usually I'll have a couple of beers, but I had this spicy Mexican lunch, and my stomach is just like, I could probably have a beer now, but like I was if I have a beer at the beginning of that show, it's not gonna be a pleasant auditory experience for the listeners.
Yeah, I'll be hosting solo 10 minutes in. Well, hopefully you've turned your mic down as you run off to the bathroom there. Yeah, okay. Schadenfreude report. Let's get
do
to
it.
it.
Schadenfreude.
The Sixers.
Schadenfreude.
The Lakers.
Schadenfreude.
The Heat.
Schadenfreude.
Milwaukee Bucks.
Schadenfreude.
Warriors.
Schadenfreude.
The Schadenfreude report.
Okay.
And I believe we've just got some classic Bucks-related Schadenfreude
Yeah,
to
I
get
mean-
to tonight, Jake.
We actually have 2 games, I believe. I don't believe the Sixers even played today, but the Milwaukee Bucks go down 130 to 111 to the Toronto Raptors.
Who?
The
The who?
Toronto Termites. And I
Dear
wish I
God.
would have pulled this up earlier, but the Toronto Raptors have had the worst half-court defense in the NBA by like a country mile. I'm going to put the tweet in the chat here if you guys want to see like how bad they are. And Ben can probably use his wizardry to bring it up on the actual screen, but because I don't know how to screen share. But
You're going to have to slack it to me, mate.
okay, no worries. The Raptors have the worst half court offense in the NBA. They had the 26th worst half court offense in the NBA last season. The Bucks cannot guard the perimeter. Yeah, here we go. Ben's freaking got it. So their half court offense, their offensive rating is 77.7. That's it's right below. There it is, 77.1. 77.1. Whereas
Oh, great.
the Celtics have 100.8, and average is kind of around like mid to high 90s. It's like, and then they walk in to a game with the Bucks and they drop 130 on the Bucks, and like I watched the game. Like it wasn't like they shot 39.5% from three. Like they didn't have this insane shooting night. Like it's a good. The Bucks even shot 38% from three themselves. Like this is a disaster performance after getting blown the fuck out by the Atlanta Hawks 2 days ago as well, who had struggled to start the season and used the Bucks' defense as a get right game. The teams who are struggling are using the Bucks to get right now.
Mm-hmm. I can't wait for us to play them. I cannot wait to play them because, regardless of everything you've just said, which is clearly stat-backed, data-backed, it's a measuring stick game for the Celtics, and the Bucks will get up and play their best against us. And yet, someone's just said it in the chat here, Thai Coffee here, the Bucks can't guard wings. That was the same last year. We even saw when Tatum would get ISO'd onto Giannis on the perimeter, Giannis would struggle to stay in front of him. And then, not to mention the Jay Crowders of the world, the Dame Lillards of the world, and then how Dame and the Bucks guards are going to get caught up with Derek and Drew, the stock exchange. They've got their own issues there to deal with, aside from our wings, our power wings. So I cannot wait to play them because, yes, we look at it as a measuring stick game, and yes, the Bucks will get up for it, but we're going to fucking get up for it, mate. Yep. The Celtics are going to go at that game hard. And I believe, I don't know when our first game against the Bucks is. I think it's sometime in November, so not too far away.
Yeah.
But I think maybe the one takeaway from the first 4 games, and maybe excluding the Knicks game, is okay, when is someone going to really come out and challenge the Celtics? And despite all the downsides,
the first
of the
2
Bucks,
games are pretty challenging, dude. I don't know about that.
Yeah, I suppose my perception is padded, and cushioned by these last 2 games. But you expect the Bucks of all teams to really come out and challenge the Celtics, and yet if these glaring defensive issues hold true, then that's going to be barbecue chicken for the Celtics. Bring them on.
Another colorful comment from Phil here. Yeah, I don't. The comment that the Bucks can't guard wings, they can't guard anyone now. Because Drew Holiday was at least one of the best guard defenders in the NBA, and he struggled to guard the Jimmy Butlers and the Tatums of the world because, well, firstly, everybody does struggle to guard those players, the Lucas of the world, except for Tatum. Tatum actually can guard all these guys pretty freaking well.
He's pretty good. That Tatum guy.
Yeah, something. I'll stay here first, but the Bucks now can't really struggle with just containing guards as well. Trae Young torching them. Schroeder was penetrating at will today when I was watching. This is a problem. The only way that they get back to a competent defense on night-to-night basis is if Middleton gets back to where he was defensively 2 years ago. And right now they've got him on a minutes restriction. He just doesn't look like the same guy at all. So it's possible that he gets back to 80%, but they need him at 100% because he was struggling to guard the Jays 2 years ago.
Yeah, and he's so far away from that still, and you don't have to watch much Bucks to realize that he's leaps and bounds away from where he needs to be. So
and the Jays are completely
the best
different
they've
players.
ever been.
Yeah, to 2 years ago, they've made massive strides.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I don't know. We talked about it on the pod yesterday, but a little concerned about what the Sixers might be able to flip all of their new assets into as far as what's going to challenge the Celtics the most in the postseason. But, the usual suspects like the Cavs haven't looked particularly good thus far.
They've been missing Garland and Allen for this whole time, though. So,
sure. Fair. Very fair statement. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to look anywhere in the East and think of a real challenger for the Celtics at this point, which is what you want to be able to say at any point in the season.
And the Cavs definitely scare me a little bit, but the way that we match up with them in a playoff setting, I just don't see how they can one, they can't stop defend the Jays. And then secondly, having those 2 non-shooters out there, Mobley, the offensive leap that people are hoping for, which is complete wish casting. He showed absolutely nothing that would indicate that he's going to come out and take an offensive leap this year. It would just be complete outlier, not improving on any existing skills. So I don't understand how that would happen this year. Like,
Yep.
I'm just trying to figure out what to like kind of root for on a night-to-night basis. Like, 4 games into the season, who do I want as my second round matchup? Like, ideally, do we want the Sixers and the Bucks to match up in round 2? Would that be good? The Knicks, that's who I don't want. I don't want the Knicks or the Heat. I would much rather play the Sixers and the Bucks at this point, I swear.
Yeah, their defense is scary. And then just add like Thibodeau, like the general behind the hordes of horses, just like screaming, just like that's terrifying. It has to be terrifying if you're out there. Like, you can't tell me, no matter how much money you make, no matter how much NBA experience you've got, that having Tibbs yell, screaming on the sideline there isn't absolutely terrifying. And yeah, defensively, like, they're really locked in. Which is why it was still so good and promising for the prospects of the Celtics to see them beat them, somewhat decisively in their first real regular season game against a Knicks team that has a bit more time and experience together.
You've really rewritten these first 2 games in your head, haven't you?
What, was it not that? It wasn't like a blowout, but
we were losing. You talking about the Knicks game?
Yeah, mate, we had them right where we wanted them.
We were down by 6 with like 2 minutes to go.
Well, it's amazing. The human brain is capable of so much, and it's really convinced itself, in my case, that the Celtics have dominated all 4 games.
I'm like,
and
so
I won't
impressed.
be told otherwise.
Ben oscillates from just being worried about everything to convinced that the Celtics have won every game by 25. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I only exist in 2 states, so just let me have this. I need this. So, upcoming matchups for the Celtics. We've got the Nets coming up on Saturday night. I'm having to do the time zone conversions from Australia to
which I will note on that game that the Nets are also playing the Bucks on a back-to-back. So the Celtics have 2 days off, and then the Nets play the Bulls the night before, and then they play the Celtics on the back-to-back. So just a nice little schedule boost for us, because I promise you got to take advantage of Halliburton's out. It was not decisive at all. KP was awesome though. Yeah, absolutely. So just look, Halliburton was out tonight. That was nice. It's a good point, actually. Ben was on codeine.
One of those things is true. I was in the attic.
In the attic, cooked out of his mind. So look, there's going to be a time in the schedule where someone's going to be injured. We're going to be on a back-to-back, and we're going to lose a couple games. I'm very much not going to be feeling bad for Halliburton being out or that playing the Nets on a back-to-back, because do not care. Bank these wins, get a cushion, and let's fucking go.
Yes, sir. All right. Well, no better place to leave it than right there. Everyone in the chat, thank you so much for joining us. Like we said at the top, this isn't going to be on the podcast feed. This is just us hanging out late night style after I want to say a classic Celtics win, but really it's quite unique, statistically speaking, at least. But this was a lot of fun. We really appreciate everyone, following along in the chat and all your questions and interactions and stuff. It's by far the most fun part of all this kind of stuff. So, Jake, love your work, mate. We're going to be back on this channel 8 p.m. East tomorrow night with Eric Weiss. Until then, Jake, love your work. Go Celtics.